here today because I want to talk about summer.
Right.
I get lots of questions about what do we do over summer.
Okay, so from 22 until 39 years of age,
Yes.
every year at this time, I would be like dying because you're at the end of the school cycle. My SAT prep mirrored the school cycle because you have an SAT and an ACT the first and second week of June. So literally 2 weeks out, the only thing in my head the whole time was the scene from Braveheart with the blue pen.
Go. I literally this weekend I had a graduation that I had to go to, but I could not wake up. I just kept saying I don't know why I can't wake up. But then it hit me this morning. It's the last week of school. And this is every educator out there, at least in the area that has this as the last week of school. It could be anybody else. If it's next week and it's your last week of school, you know what I'm talking about. It's that Monday of the last week of school.
Oh my gosh, you can taste it's like cattle when they can smell water. They're like they can smell water in the air, and like if it's 10 miles away, they're like, like a starving or thirsty cow. Yeah. It's like the same. It's like a week away. I can taste it.
They're done. Everybody's done. Teachers are done. Everybody's done. Parents are getting ready. Everybody's just ready to go.
You know what it is? It's the exact same glory as gambling and golf. It's the anticipation of the event.
Okay.
Like gambling is only fun because there's the anticipation of success, even though it very rarely comes, and you pay a lot of money to get that feeling. Golf is the same thing. It's going to the golf course and walking up to the tee and like, here you go, and it's the end. You never hit the ball right.
No,
it never works.
It's this is the day. Oh, you say that because I have golfers. My boys are golfers, and they always are ready. You're exactly right. Whenever they leave, especially my middle son, he's like, "Today's the day, Mom. Today's the day. I'm gonna get that score." And he comes home. So that is it. That is what this is. This is the last week of school. I'm going to say yes. This is just before the golf game. This is the week right before they get to go do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
So that's why they're like, yeah, well, after this week. And then we do have some amazing shows. So at Innovate, we have an amazing teacher who does our music programs, our PTO person that supports that.
Because it's the end of the school
It's amazing.
programs.
Yes. So we have spring programs. They're so cute. Kids have tie-dye shirts on. Yes. They're singing. Parents are, waving. They get their awards. It's all, it's a great day. Oh my
gosh, so. My dad sent me this thing that I'm not going to play for. I'll play for you later. But it was this a compilation of kids at presentations, little kids like toddlers and like first graders and stuff at presentations with their parents filming them before the kid sees the parent. And they're like standing there like looking around, and then they lock on to the parent and you see the face go like, and then of course it's to sad music in the background. I'm bawling hysterically in here. I'm trying to edit videos and I'm like, Dad, you can't. But that's such a cool thing to see. I had my first grader. They did their presentation a couple weeks ago at his elementary school, and dude, it was so cool. And I was filming it, right? Dad with a tripod and my iPhone on top, and he kept doing
the whole thing out there. No, you do. So I always have to do the pre-talks. Like last week I had to do the pre-talks because let's be honest, not every child is an excited performer.
Stage ready.
Right. And so I had to tell him, you know who's coming? There's going to be all these parents here, but guess who they're looking at? They're looking at their own child. They're looking at their own kid. And then you could just see this relief. Oh, yeah. So I told him, I said, you are doing this for your mom, your grandparents, everybody that's coming to see you. Then I get ready.
You guys have a band program, right?
We have an after-school music program. We are working right now. We want a band program. So anybody out there that wants to help us make that come true,
I would love to help people do trumpet. Yes. I don't know anything about tuba, but trumpet, I'm all in. The reason I ask is I remember I played trumpet all through, when I could start in elementary school and then all through the end of high school. Big fan of jazz trumpet. And I remember my jazz instructor, the band conductor, I think I was like a junior, and I was first trumpet, and he pulled us aside and he's like, listen to me. What you're doing tonight? And he's like, this is going to be the first time your parents have actually ever enjoyed hearing you play. So take this seriously.
So true.
And it always struck me because it's like, yeah.
So true.
And then we had this concert. Like I had a solo, I was first trumpet, and like all these other things. And my mom was there and was actually like moved, like the whole audience was like into it. And again, I think when you have a really good jazz band, even if they're in high school, they really can hit it hard and share that with people. And I just appreciate that. And I now appreciate from a parent's standpoint,
yes, because you get it, you understand. And that's the parent's journey, right? I was the same space. You see, and those are happy tears because you've been through the pain, sweat of listening till you got to that night where you could perform in that jazz band. It's the same with sports. You know, it's anything we watch our kids do. And I think that's the best thing, and that's the part of it too. And that is what I love even as being an educator, because you see that journey as they go through when they're struggling to get something down. And then when they do and it's magic, it's amazing.
MTU Studios is the proud producer for the Ada County Sheriff Podcast, the Idaho Wildlife Federation Podcast, the State Representative Ted Hill Podcast, the Idaho State PTA Podcast, and many more. If you or your organization is thinking about starting a podcast, MTU Studios would love to help. Just check out mtustudios.com. You know what I appreciate about the sports analogy? I think it's such an it's an unappreciated connection between music and sports. If you're playing the right style music, for instance, there's a piano here. Okay, right. There's not really, but if there was,
yes.
You and I hit the notes and it sounds the exact same as if a world famous pianist hit the note. Okay. Now again, like we couldn't string them together, but if I hit middle C, it's going to sound like somebody else hitting middle C. And if you, for instance, in brass, okay, if you're playing trombone or you're playing trumpet in particular, it costs you something to play that. It's not an inconsequential experience. No. You are in pain playing this instrument because obviously higher notes are harder to get. You have to scrunch your face up. And because you're not that strong with your embouchure and your mouth muscles, you smash the trumpet into your mouth. Mm-hmm. So like I started playing trumpet again. I have my trumpet from high school. I got it tuned up and was playing it. And, you know, because one of my sons plays trumpet and they're getting really into it. Right. So I come out of, we're in a room because it's really loud. And come out, and my wife's like, "What happened to your face?" I'm like, "This is the price you pay." Right? When I was in high school, I got this mechanism called the silent brass. And because trumpet is such an abrasive instrument, it's really, really loud. They're like, "Go play in the garage." That stinks. Go play in your room. Who wants to be in a room? Right? But what you do is smash this mute in. The mute had a cord that went down to a little box, and then you had earphones on, and it took all the noise out of it. So people standing next to you could hear like a whisper of a trumpet, but that's why it's called the silent brass. So now I could practice all day long if I wanted to, and it wouldn't bother anyone. I practiced so hard and for so long on that trumpet that I actually gave myself incredible pains beneath the belt line. Like I thought, like I probably had some level of hernia because of the pressure coming from my abdomen. Right. And I actually had to stop practicing because I was in so much pain. And like, I got scared to practice that hard again. That's the kind of cost that playing music, if done correctly, does. Not that thing in particular, but it hurts. There's no shortcut, and you are laid bare to be judged by the world. Like there is no hiding your deficiencies. There is no hiding the sound you're making, and it hurts to get better.
Well, yeah, but it felt good when you were done.
Dude,
it felt
that's
good
the
when
point.
You were good, right?
That's the point. Like people see athletics, and I think people make that connection very quickly with like running or swimming or anything. But if done correctly, I think music allows for the same growth. It allows the same process of like, this is going to cost something. You're going to be exposed. But if you want to get better, here's the path. Learn this process. Learn the pain and the anguish and overcoming it, and you will be great in anything you want to do.
It's the same way. Now I play clarinet. I tried. I wanted the trip to Disneyland. I made it. Once I got I was forget 9th grade, got a high school band, made second chair, got the trip to Disneyland, and I was done.
Oh my!
But it felt so good. Felt so good to get the trip, and I did not have any fancy
a silent thing.
No silent thing. So my family had to hear.
Clarinet also doesn't sound like hell when you're playing it. Like you squeak and stuff, right?
You
like
do,
woodwinds, you squeak like
bad.
You're like, that's bad.
Yes.
But you sounded like a bad Kenny G. I sounded like a dying animal. Kenny G actually, in your defense, Kenny G did not play the clarinet. He played a straight, I think it was an alto sax. So instead of the classic J design with the sax, it was a straight one. Clarinet is cylindrical.
Right.
Okay. So it's the same radius all the way down. He plays something that's conical. So it actually gets wider as the instrument goes.
Didn't
So
even know that.
look up a picture of Kenny
there
G.
you go. I gotta check it out. And I'll have to ask my sister if the squeaking was worth it. But hey, it was worth it for me because it felt good.
Matters. Listen, it's your journey. It's my journey. It's our journeys. Who cares what anybody else went through?
And now we need that for our students at Innovate. So I'm gonna throw that out again. Yes, we are trying to build a music program because of the story that you just said. Right? You're not going to forget that story. So we do have an amazing parent who has a music program that he's brought to after school programs, but we want to build it out.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely.
Anything I can do to help, which is not a lot because I'm not like a trumpet teacher, but I was first trumpet when I was 18 years old and I still got it, baby.
There you
I still got my fingers got to get tighter, but everything's got to tighten up. But
you know me, I'll pull you in. I will make you.
So what else are you guys doing for the summer? Because this is one of the reasons I want to talk to you about this is because I know you and I are very aligned on technology. Mm-hmm. I do not think technology should be the center focus of an education. I think education and using technology is fine, but the education itself should be the center focus of the education.
Yes. And in fact, I just had a good friend out this last later week, and we had these conversations because of my background. People think that I just am all about ed tech and technology first, but really it is about instruction and learning, the joy of learning. What you're talking about your trumpet, you learned how to play trumpet. So it's how do we bring that joy into everything? For me, technology's just been there to help be a production, something to help produce or create what it is that we want students to be able to do. So I'm here today because I want to talk about summer. I get lots of questions about what do we do over summer?
Right, because people, I think especially now, it's like, oh my God, here's your iPad. And I'm not poo-pooing on anyone. It's just, and I've done this in the past too. Let me be clear. But it's like, oh my God, I can't fight this fight. And it's like, you just take your iPad, take the game, blah, blah. And it just becomes, I saw this really funny Instagram video years back and it was like, all the snacks you want before noon, I don't care. Here's your iPad. I'm dead to you. Right? It's like the parents just die. Like they can't fight it.
Yes, I've been there. I've been there with my kids, especially now in the technology and how it's changed. And we've become a society that does consume technology. Myself, to unwind, I've got to remind myself, hey, I need to put this down and put it away. And not pick it up for a while. So as we look at summer, especially with students coming home, kids coming home, we have a lot of traveling, and it's easy too in the car. I've been long car rides, things to do. So I want to take this opportunity to talk about it so I can share the news because I like I said, my parents ask me, I'll ask this last month. What should we do over summer? What are some things we should work on? And I have three big things to spring out there, and then I'll give some ideas, and I want to hear about your ideas.
Okay,
too,
yeah, let's go one for one. I got a lot of ideas. Let's go one for one. What's your first idea?
So first is language. Language. Talking to your children, I know it's a concept. Everybody gets tired. I get tired, and it's still my children are adults, and now they want to tell me everything, and I have to remember I created this. We were talking about the golf game. I created this scenario. They can, and they get frustrated with me because if I get off task or if I start talking to someone else, they are so angry because we have always gone through, and there is even research out now about the importance of play for students, but also play with language. And that means talking about what it is that they are doing, learning from you in that language. And even anytime you can have something, if you're on a trip, right? You mentioned going up to the mountains.
Yeah.
Okay. How is this different from what we did last year? How is this different from what we do at home? When you're comparing and contrasting, they have to think about something. I know that crazy word thinking, but as much as we can get that kind of that deep critical thought going and them having to take information, think about two different aspects of it, synthesize it, bring it together, and then talk about it, that's a lot of brain power. So when you're trying to get them out there and running around the neighborhood and staying healthy, and they're getting their muscles already and being body smart, brain smart. Anytime we can have them think critically, and language helps with that. So those conversations. My kids used to say, "Oh, no more teacher talk." so that's the one thing I would say. So go ahead, let me hear you.
Okay, just a question from you though.
Yes.
My oldest son had to do a book report podcast recently, which I thought was super cool because and here's the other thing, he had to write out the whole script of the podcast. So it wasn't just, oh, hit record and then I talk
Right.
nonsense. It was he had to present a script that we largely stuck to and then went back and forth and they recorded on a platform and uploaded it. Do you count language for writing versus reading as similar benefits?
It is, especially when you were talking about that situation. That's a transfer
Or
skill.
speaking, did I say writing
You
versus
said
reading?
writing, but I
it's like
understood reading.
speaking versus
You
writing.
have all four, right? If you're talking about, when we talk about English language arts and we talk about learning, we talk about speaking, listening, reading, writing, they all go together. What I'm talking about now is because Summer, you want to have fun. And
Right.
so it's that engaging time that you have with your child, with your students, to be able to have that. So this is just honestly an opportunity for you to model language at a higher level, explaining what vocabulary and words are. I don't suggest you have to go pull out the pen and the paper and have them write something out. What you explain though is good to hear, because that podcast, that's a transfer skill. So having to write out what it is that you're trying to plan and say and then transfer it on, you're just cementing that whole process of what you went through in learning. I'm talking about when you're out and you're in the car and you're or on a trip, anytime you can take an opportunity not to ask a quick yes, no, simple question, but have a chance for them to take themselves away and compare to where it is they are in that moment is what I'm talking about.
Gotcha.
It's that whole type of just being able
Just
to
on
talk.
the fly. Yeah.
Yes.
We do a lot of stories. So like I love, especially in the car, it's like I'll just start telling a story and it could
Perfect.
be about nonsense.
Yes.
Just like whatever, but I sell it hard to the kids, and then I will actually let them keep going with the story. And if they start losing track, or if they're not pushing hard enough for creativity, or go like, it starts broken record, then it's like, no, I grab the story again and we keep doing more of the story. And then, we keep breaking them up.
Yeah, no, great example.
Great.
That's perfect.
Okay.
That's perfect. Because anytime you're going through that entire process, they have to pull information. They've got to pull what they know. They have to think. They got to think a second about what it is they're going to say. They have to relate. They have to go back.
Right.
That whole process of what you're doing is making them have just the experience to have that deeper understanding of language, be able to put it out there. And that's going to help, honestly, with their vocabulary, with reading and everything else as you go forward.
Plus, I think it's also it's similar to playing music, right? Like you have to have an aspect of creativity and then understand why one person's story is better than another person's story. Like, what is it about that? Like, what did this person raise their voice and lower? Did they change the tempo? Did they, like, all of these different things? And then you start realizing like, oh, I need to add some of that in, or I didn't do this. So
Yes.
an interesting piece. So mine, first off, is my first step is I don't negotiate with terrorists. Okay. So
all right. That's always a good, that
don't negotiate with terrorists.
Okay.
And one of the problems with, I think, that we struggle with tech, and I know a lot of parents struggle with tech, and again, as we're talking about recommendations, one thing is to eliminate an option, because if there's an option at one point, they'll try to negotiate to get the favorable option over everything else. It's like, can we watch TV? No, like can we watch TV later? Okay, yeah, later we can do it. Okay, when later? It's like, well, fine. Well, can we watch it at 4? No, we can't watch it at 4. What if we do everything you want to do first? Then can we watch it at 4? So all of a sudden, it's this negotiation. And I find with tech in particular, it's very hard to get people to buy into story time. It's very hard to get people to buy into trips if they feel that there's an alternative coming down the road at some point that they're looking forward to. They're thinking about that thing instead of thinking about like, okay, this is where I am and this is all there is as far as I can see. So to that end, we not only took away tech, but we also, in times like this, we take away all of the TV remotes.
Okay.
And we take away everything that we know they will be drawn to that's not going to produce better results. That's not to say we don't watch TV at some point, but it's not a scheduled thing where they can like negotiate with us, or if I have better behavior, can I get it sooner? Something like that. So just eliminating that option for young people, for less desirable activities, wholly, completely. Not like do this and you can get a little bit of that. It's like, no, that's out of the question.
But even what you said is bigger than that. That is amazing. But too, when you think about young minds and they are still developing, what you're doing in that exact scenario is you're also saying what we're doing matters. So because if they think, okay, if I do this first and then I get the TV,
it's a means to an end.
It is.
That's it.
So that even with what you're explaining to that's why I try when I'm working with teachers and we try to have like free time in a classroom.
Sure.
I cannot stand free time in a classroom. I know there's times where we have a saying even at the school where we work hard and play hard, but the play doesn't become because the work we had to get through the work to be able to get to the play. It should be one that comes together, that means something, that has meaning, because you don't want to take away that the play is more important than what it is that we just did to learn.
Right.
So I'll give you an example. We just had a dance. We had a dance. That was a spring dance. The kids had an amazing time.
Was it awkward?
It was awkward. At the beginning, it started out awkward. There was the boy group. There was the girl group. There really was. Both sides. It was classic.
Oh my gosh.
It was amazing. But what was so amazing about this
by
day?
the way, do you remember those days?
Of course I do.
Like, not as an educator, but like as a 7th grader.
Yes.
I remember being plastered against the other wall,
Yes.
just like,
and just pretending like you don't see him. Yeah.
looking on the
And
side.
looking out
God,
the other.
how funny.
Yes. Yes.
Ridiculous.
And then when the slow song even starts to come on and everybody's just looking around. Yeah, that happened. That happened. But this dance was completely planned, orchestrated, organized, everything by the student leadership from our middle schoolers. So at the end, that's what it was. They worked hard and they get to play hard. It was the means to the ending. There was a purpose for it. So even what you said is true in having that. So you got to let me know how that goes. So do you have, you're going to watch, you said you're going to watch some TV. Is there a certain show?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. So first off, not all TV is created equally. And I don't even just mean programming, but I mean literally you have smart TVs that have apps and whatnot, like YouTube. So just because somebody's watching TV does not mean that the program on it has passed some barrier of propriety. That's one of the biggest mistakes. People are like, oh, they're just watching TV. Yeah, it could be Peg plus Cat, which I love, like Peg plus Cat. You don't know, whatever. But it's fantastic. I love Peg plus Cat. Or it could be something crazy on YouTube. So we try to be really intentional with the programs that, like Phineas and Ferb, I really like. Pet plus Cat, like as far as cartoons go and educational things. The YouTube programs that we do allow, Coyote Peterson, though he's now on Amazon, that's always a fantastic one. He kind of went commercially though, like they started doing product placement really, really hard. Coyote Peterson goes out into the wild and he'll find like bugs and snakes and animals, really cool stuff.
Right.
And it is high quality programming, but there's certainly the like I'm on scene in Costa Rica and for the next week, I'm going to see if there are any Pokemon here on Pokemon Go. And you're like, oh, Coyote, damn it. Like you had me, and this is terrible. Yeah. Like we had something, it's over now. So you have that, you have Mystery Doug. That really, again, a really cool sciencey program. My boys really, really enjoy that style of content, which I'm really happy about because it's fun. I try to stay away from things like Blippi just because it's like, this is just vacant and just
I couldn't even tell you. I can tell you though, can put out there, not all cartoons are created equal.
Right.
We need to know that as grown-ups because you can't just think that you see something that is a cartoon and think that it's okay for kids. Right. That will be the one that I throw out there because I have even been surprised by some of those shows that are out there. They're amazing. I'm not trying to say, I know adults that love these shows, but it doesn't mean that you want to have some of your younger students
like
watching it when you said intentional.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like you can't. But I think it's really important. Like if you have an old TV that doesn't have any apps on it, you're going to have the safest viewing experience at noon on a Tuesday on that device.
Yes.
Right. Then you go to an actual TV and it's more clunky. Like you're not getting on Instagram easily on a TV. No. Like you're dealing with more safer stuff, but not 100. And you can get on YouTube real fast and find bad stuff.
Yes.
As you walk it closer to the smartphone for, let's say, basic media consumption, you get more and more dangerous and less control over what the kids are going after. And it's far easier to conceal. They can hide a phone, they can turn off the volume, they can watch something really inappropriate right in front of you on a phone. They can't do that on a TV. So the more public the space is for the tech consumption, the safer that consumption is going to be.
Definitely. And again, going back to the key word, intentional. Figure it out. Be there with watching what they're watching. Have them turn down the volume if you have to. But if you're worried about them finding stuff that's not good, which is really, really easy to do, especially with TVs these days, just be around them. What's your number two? Number two, of course, reading. There are processes that happen when you're reading. And I know that's difficult because I had two very busy athletic boys. I especially had one who played baseball, and all we did all summer was play baseball. But there were things that I could find for my boys to read. They love sports. So even pulling on and being intentional, there are sports information for kids they can read. There was a lot of times they read biographies on sports characters or sports players that they enjoyed. I had lunch, so I was a little bit late with my 1,000-minute reader club we had a reading challenge. And I listened to a lot of the books that of course our students are reading, the Percy Jackson books, any of those books. Some like to just read even fun poetry books. So anytime that you can get them and read and for enjoyment and be able to read. And here's where parents go wrong kind of in the summer. What we talked about too, don't go and assign minutes. Don't make it feel like it's forced. Give it time for them to be able to enjoy. We used to take a time, and probably why I read so many books. We would just get up and start reading and have like a read time. And just like we would play games, we would go outside. I'm going to talk about some other things we did, but encourage just time for reading. And especially when you're in a car, if you're in a long car ride, bring along some books or some kind of magazines, things like that are going to get their brains going.
Question for you. Audio books versus physical books. So one thing that our boys did when they were younger is they really liked, he was a mouse. I can't remember. Do you remember? It was a series about
Ralph and the motorcycle.
Ralph S. Mouse.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
They really enjoyed those audio stories, and they would play Legos. And all of a sudden, like my two oldest boys would be in one of their rooms listening to this audiobook, building Legos quietly. Like, they're not watching anything. They're physically working. How much of the benefit do you feel people get from paper books versus consuming the content while doing something else, like in a long car ride or while they're playing Legos or doing whatever?
Audiobooks are fabulous. I enjoy audiobooks. You still want to take time to get the reading process because there's different brain function, right? When I'm looking at a book and I have to create the picture myself, read it or understand the content, even if it's something that's expository, if it's something that is nonfiction, I have to still think about what the message is, think what is happening within that story, within the context of what I'm reading. So, but I'm not going to say don't do audiobooks. Audiobooks are great because, again, you're going to get the vocabulary that we talked about before. They're entertaining, and it's a way a lot of times to get kids to books. There's some kids out there that struggle with reading and they don't like to read. So when we struggle with something, we just talked about it. Right? Earlier in the conversation, we're playing your instrument, right? It's the same. It's human. It's human. We don't like to do things that are difficult for us. So that was something that I struggled with, even with my oldest son and getting him to read. And now he reads every day. And it's, of course, it's about sports trades and whatever, what's going on. But it's also the news. It's how he, keeps himself informed and that too. But it was a struggle. So I've been there. I've lived it. But I definitely keep the audiobooks. But at some point, there's got to be some time of you're going through and looking at the words on the pages.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I have one for you.
Okay.
As we all know, our kids are going to follow what we do.
Right.
And so one of the struggles with removing tech from my house was, I wouldn't say it was a struggle, but it was a big consideration was, okay, look, you can't be on tech then. And everybody knows like, oh, I can't be on my phone around my kids. And it's annoying. But doing things so that you're not white knuckling it, actually changing habits so that it makes your life easier. For instance, with reading. My son is reading the Fablehaven series, or he just finished it. And he was like, Dad, you should read this. Now, mind you, my son's in 6th grade. I'm like, I don't want to read Fablehaven. But to that end, I think a lot of times I reach for my phone, or in the past, I would reach for my phone to fill that 3 or 4 minutes of just bleh. It's like you're just grinding through the bleh.
Right.
So I started carrying around the Fablehaven book. And so I would read the Fablehaven book. And then I got into it enough that instead of sitting on the couch and like maybe looking at my phone real fast, I leave my phone in my office now. So nobody even if I check it, nobody ever sees me on my phone, and I'll just check it real fast. But I will sit down and read the book. And it's literally like a buoy in the ocean that just grows barnacles. The second I sit down with a book, one or two of my sons come over, a dog comes over, like
It's
all of
true.
a sudden, boom, people are sitting down. And if they start talking to me, I say, hey, why don't you grab your book? Because I'm reading this book right now. Juxtapose that to if I sat down with my phone and they come over, I get like annoyed, right? Like I turn off my phone, like, can you just, what do you, it's like, no, engage in this, this process with me. So to the end of getting kids to consume more, if I go and I sit down and I start reading a book, or I go into their rooms at night when they're just chilling out and I start reading a book, they grab books. And it's a way for me to be around. And now it has become this ritual where at night I go and they're like, come into I'll go into one of my kids' rooms and we'll both read, all three of us, my two older boys and me. I'm like, all right, go to bed. And the older one will be like, come to my room and read. And so then I'm in his room reading on the floor for 10 minutes. Yes. But it becomes a family process that it's not hard to convince them to do it because it's like, no, this is just what we're doing now. And it's easier for me to do that if I carry around the book the same way I would carry around a cell phone. Because then instead of reaching for the cell phone, I just reach for the book, crack it open, I get a couple pages in, shut it, and then we're on our way.
No, that's such a great strategy because you've inspired me because we had our conversation last time. Well, I even went out a couple weeks ago and I said, hey, I'm not bringing my phone. And people were like, what? I'm like, I'm going to put my phone down. I'm not going to bring my phone because I realized how much I, even as part of just the world we're in, the world that we're in, I'm sorry, but it's because it's everything, and then I was talking with somebody else and it's crazy how we've gotten here because think about in the old days, we would never carry the phone around the house with us. I mean, even I had a cordless phone and I still would not have carried that. I would look ridiculous.
I know. You're like, what are you doing? Like, just in case.
Yes.
Just in case. Right? What do you mean? Just if somebody calls, it'll make a noise. Like, just in case.
Yes. We got in this whole conversation about this because we said it. We think nothing about, oh, where's my phone? I even have to have a watch so I can find my phone. And people know that. So it was eye-opening for myself.
I have to ask, how was it going out without your phone?
Oh,
was it horrifying?
I did. It was, I kept forgetting. Then I forgot where I put it. And then I didn't have my watch. So then we had to find the phone. So that's about,
those are normal problems.
That's a normal problem as you get older, right? Trying to find the phone.
Losing your keys is like first world
Exactly. But we've gotten this whole conversation about how attached we are to our phones and then modeling too. Cause I saw this even in, I told you my granddaughter is around too. And so she wants her phone. She wants a case. It just how much we model for the young people in our lives. We have to be really careful about that and what that looks like. And so, see, I've even learned a ton coming out here and being.
Oh my God, I so appreciate you, woman.
Yes,
yeah, I think the intentionally leaving it. To that point, we went to an end of the year like fair, like field day, where they had like the big orb things where you get them and bounce off each other and slides and stuff. And my two older boys are in 6th and 4th grade, and then my youngest is in 1st grade. So it's like, okay, we got to follow around the 1st grader.
Right.
And then I was like, I'm not. And we gave the other two older boys, they had their watches on, Gizmo watch, and my wife's like, where are they? I'm like, I don't know. I'll go look. She's like, we'll just call them. I'm like, I'm not grabbing my phone. I made it 3 hours.
Wow.
At a field day, this whole thing. And I'm like, and at one point I didn't know where they were. Like, and I literally stood in the center and like looked around. I'm like, okay, he was wearing a red shirt. Like, I'll see him in a sec. Where is he? And then I found him. I'm like, this is what we used to do. It didn't used to be this arduous. It used to just be like, you wander around and just find the person. And by the way, I want my boys to be able to wander around and find the people. And if they get lost, they ask for help. If there's because these are the mechanisms that they're going to have to use in the actual world where it's not just field day. It's like, you will never have a better opportunity to just learn how to wander about.
Well, you have to, because what if that happens when the phone is not there,
right?
Or it's gone, and then it comes back to just those life skills that have to happen. And I will admit, people know. I mean, I am guilty of having gone to the store and you forgot your phone.
Yeah,
it was the worst. Probably 30 minutes of, oh my gosh, I don't have a phone. Someone might, and then you sit back and say, this is crazy. How did we become so attached?
I mentioned this to my friend. I saw her at the field day. I was like, oh, hey, Pam, how are you? She's like, good. And we kind of started talking because she's like, wow, you really don't pick up your phone from 5 to 8. I was like, no, because nothing important happens from 5 to 8. You want to know why we pick it up? Because we're indulging our anxiety. We're anxious that something vitally important has happened between 5 and 8 o'clock. Nothing has ever happened that needed us at that time. As long as we're with our people, nothing is going to happen that requires us from 5 to 8. There's no emergency it's us indulging our anxiety and just reinforcing the knee-jerk reaction to grab our phone and look at it. Stop it. Pick up a book and just like let it go. If you have a to-do, I carry around a field guide from 5 to 8. It's like a little zipper book, and I open it. And if I have a to-do, or I'm like, oh my God, I got to text this person, I just write it down, like text Pam. And then I close it. And like at 8 o'clock, I just go and I text Pam whatever. I run down the list of to-dos, and then I put my phone away and it's done for the day.
Well, I have found, especially that too, with the area where you can put your focus time, because I've done that now. I've got a few phone numbers in case of an emergency that can get through. Then other than that, my phone's off. I'll turn off notification and put it away. So we're there. I mean, we'll see what happens this summer. I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to check in with you. See how I do.
You see that phone over there on the coffee machine? I got that with a separate number specifically. That phone always stays on, so that when I do a podcast with you, I never have to worry about checking my phone. Because if anything major happens, the wife calls that phone.
You've got
That's it. Yeah, and if you have that where you're like, hey, listen, there is a process in place where if there's a real emergency, someone will find me. Aside from that, you're just lying to yourself. You're just indulging your anxiety. Let it go, put the tech down, and get on with your life. And if you can do that, you're good to go.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it.
Okay,
all right,
on
so
number 3.
We've talked 3. It's math facts. Math facts. They are, I taught middle school. I've taught 5th, 4th grade. My teachers right now at all levels, they will tell you 2 words, especially last week of school, math facts. And when we mean by that too, and I know there's lots of, I probably have people listening to this going, oh, there's more to math than just math facts. I agree. But let me explain what I mean by math facts. There has to be a place where we just look at numbers and we see parts and pieces of numbers. So I used to even have this game. I would take flashcards and it might be 8 times 3. And I would put it at one side or different numbers. And I would have my boys just run and say, bring me 24. And they would have to go like 8 times 3, the 2 times 12, 6 times 4. They'd have to see it automatically, because what I want them to see is those number families. They see, because that's going to help them later when we get into abstract math. When you get into variables, you get into all the different higher levels of math. That is where something has to kick in, where it's got to be that automatic. It's almost like muscle memory, right? That's what I'm trying to do. Every teenager I tried between my daughter and my son, that muscle memory of driving a car so that they're safe and they're able to know exactly what they're doing in case something else happens. That's what I'm talking about. Right. We have to get to a muscle memory of math. It's the same with reading. You won't hear, a lot of times this happens too. And you will never hear your grown parents, like if you go through parents, you won't hear parents ever say, I just can't read. I don't read. It's very typical. In fact, I've heard it this year. I will have parents go, well, I'm just really not that good at math. And these are the messages that we put out there. So that is why we need to just have muscle memory. We need to get to where we start seeing these number families. There's other fun ways to be able to do that. Definitely. Anytime you can put in where you can get to that automatic space between subtraction, addition, multiplication, division. There's 4 operations. That's it. No, they're going to get tricky. There's things they're going to have to do later. But if they understand those number families and what that looks like back and forth, it's going to help them later as they get through the math.
I love that. Yeah. I love math a lot.
I know you do. I thought you would be big on it.
I used to play games with numbers all the time. Like I would just look at like 1238, right? Like I would just look at that number. I'd be like, okay, how do those numbers relate? I'm like, okay, well, the 2 times the 3 is 6 plus the 1 is 7. So it's really like 6, 7, 8 because it's 1238. Like, I don't know. Like I would just play around with them like when I was bored in a car and I was always thinking about numbers, just being silly with them and messing around. And I got very comfortable with like obscure operations and relationships.
That's what you do. So right now I was talking about my reading club that we had lunch with before we got here. We started talking about animals. They have their pets. I have my dog, which is, my 4th child. So
what kind of dog do you have?
I have a Morkie. But I'm not a good dog mom. I'm not. My dog thinks she's a human. Drives everybody crazy. Like people come over and they hate my dog. She's super cute too. She's 12 pounds of cuteness, and you just look at her and she
ruins everything.
She ruins everything. But she's so cute when she does it. But she think I can talk to her. I was talking about language. I talk to my dog. So my dog talks to me. Well, so she'll just come up and start barking and talk to me, which drives other people crazy. So anyway, but this was the great thing I was sitting with second graders. We're talking about pizza in first grade. There's first graders there too. And they're talking about dog years. And they're talking about how old their dogs are. And they wanted to know if my dog's 5, how many dog years? How old is that? And so again, we got into math and we talked about how you could break down math. One of the students had a dog her dog was 14. So we talked, how could you break 14 up and then multiply it by 7? And right. So, she was like, oh, I could do 10 times 7. Oh, that's 70. And 4 times, 7 is 28. Right. We went through this whole, and it was a conversation about dogs and lives. But I'm smiling because me, the grown up here, is saying, okay, we're being intentional and talking about math. And then I brought it back. This is also key, coming back and say, do you know what you just did? You just broke down an entire number sentence sequence, and you were able to do that all yourself. Look what you just did. And then they get the big smile on their face. We get there. So yeah, definitely anytime you can do that, math stories, bring down just understanding how numbers break apart.
Yeah, I dig that. Yeah. That leads into my third one.
Okay, let's go.
Which is board games first off, board games and card games are like the long lost love of the human race.
Yes.
Like card games are great. Board games are great. But I always shoot for things that have dual value. Okay. So for instance, war, I hate war because war has nothing to do with skill, even at least. War is literally just going through the process of identifying who was the winner as the cards got dealt.
Right.
Because there's nothing you can do to change the hand you have, and you're just going to play it out and find out who wins. That doesn't take any skill at all.
Exactly.
So I try to steer away from things like that. Like Go Fish is a little better because there's chance involved here if you call the wrong thing. But I really like games, especially card games, that have to do with, let's say, speed. Like Speed is a great one. Solitaire is slower. You can play it by yourself. And you have decisions you have to make, chances you have to take there.
Right.
Great. But I really like Speed because Speed is hand-eye coordination, recognition, quick decisions, reflexes, the whole thing. Okay. And you're going to definitely jam your friends. And if you're going to do a board game as old school as it is, I think Monopoly is probably one of the best because you have delayed discount functions. You have, okay, it's valuable $200 here, but it'll be $600 in the future. Or you buy a bunch of things with the intention of just screwing up other people's Monopoly, and you realize the leverage capacity. You also understand the longer you wait, the more money you're going to have in your pocket because you're past go, but the more risk you incur. So you have to do all of these future versus present calculations. And if done correctly, so when we do trades in my house, I go insane with the trades because I want my boys to consider it's not just like, okay, I give you this and then I give you this and it's even Steven. It's like, no. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you this one for free. Okay. But I want immunity on all of your monopolies that this one goes to. So, and I will explain because I want you to build up your hotels and it'll hurt mom instead of me. And she's our shared enemy. So it's like,
you got alliances going on.
Right. So I really try to make them as complex with as many levers as possible.
Okay.
So now when they're doing a sale or a purchase or a trade or something, they're like, okay, there's a lot to consider here. And there's more than just getting a couple extra bucks. There are different markets and different values to the different decisions that get made. And if a fourth grader gets really good at considering the things that other people would consider are not valuable, but makes value out of them. Like, I'll give you immunity. How much is the immunity worth? Well, it could be worth $1,000. I'll give it to you for $500.
There you go.
Right? Like, you can even purchase immunity from people. Like all of these different nuances. You're playing with math. You're playing with future and present values. You're playing with a lot of variables. There is luck involved, and people have agency too. Because they're like, I shouldn't have done this, or I should have done this, or whatever it is.
No, it is. But your role play. Right. There's so much between role play and being able to get into the game, and then also too, you're building that entrepreneur spirit that's there, right? So that's another thing. This summer you're going to see all kinds I know my students, that's what we're about at Innovate. We just had our market a couple of weeks ago. We had a street kid market. And
That's
awesome. I was so amazed to see everything they brought to be able to sell and that negotiation that you just saw. I even saw as the time was coming down on the market, I saw things get slashed and prices went down and closeout sales. And so it's anytime there was a closeout sale.
It's the last week of school police purchase.
It was, and I realized what I should have probably held out to buy later next year. Next year I will know.
Gosh.
No, it's great for them to be in those situations and be just like that because are you going to put your boys to work? You're gonna put your boys to work?
So I was briefly mentioning this.
I know.
I'm very excited about this. So again, inspired by the Innovate model and looking at my summer as, okay, I'm going to give them a lot of open time as in like, here are 40 pieces of PVC pipe with elbows and like 45 degrees and all this stuff. You have to get water from this side of the yard to that side of the yard. Whoever can fill up this gallon bucket the fastest wins a cookie or something, right? So like a lot of random task-oriented things. But I also want to give them the capacity of actual value. Okay, so instead of doing, like a lemonade stand, which is totally fine, right? Or something that predominantly leverages people's sentiment towards young people and desire to encourage, you confuse that with actual value.
Right.
Because I stop at a lemonade stand to encourage the kids to engage in this neighborhood thing. I'm not actually stopping because it's good lemonade. It never is good lemonade.
I have
they
not.
always skimp you on it. They only give you, I need like a 32-ounce commuter cup. Like fill this bad boy up.
Well, I can tell you in my neighborhood, there's even a franchise because they were like on multiple corners and I finally had to ask. And they said, no, they were all together. This was a full corporation of lemonade stands in my neighborhood. I thought that was ingenious.
God.
So I did buy a glass just because I had to support the cause.
Did they pool the revenue and split it?
Well, I could tell the signs I thought was going on. I was like, man, I mean, they were at every kind of outlet corner. And I finally had to say, hey, are you all, there's a lot of lemonade going on today in this neighborhood. And they said, no, we're all together. We're all partners. We're business partners. I was like, okay,
Done.
I got to buy one just because I got to support. This was like a corporate franchise of lemonade.
Well, that's the most impressive lemonade system I've heard of. But in general, like you have one-offs. These are not franchise. They're mom and pop owned and they stink. All right. So what I was thinking is like, okay, we're going to go down to the pool.
Right.
We're going to pick a Saturday. So you have to sacrifice part of your Saturday.
Okay.
Morning and afternoon. We're going to set up a legit tri-tip taco stand. Okay. And here's the plan. And don't steal this plan.
I'm not going to steal it.
At least not in my neighborhood.
If you ever tasted my tri-tip, you know I'm not going to steal this plan.
They're lucky because their dad's a gangster with tri-tip. So this is my plan. We're going to go get a 5-pack of tri-tip from Costco, which is like $100 or something. I can't remember exactly how much it costs. But we're going to get this and I'm going to make all 5 of the tri-tips. And then we're going to go to, the other part in Costco, get onions, tomatoes, the whole. So we're going to have tri-tip tacos. All right. So I'm going to make them with on paper ledger, itemize everything we purchased, right? We're going to have to do a run through with one tri-tip to figure out how many tacos we can get out of each of it. We're going to set up a stand at the pool and we're going to have, a front table where my two older boys who are going to be in 5th and 7th grade, they're going to be the customer facing entity.
Okay.
They're going to be receiving and payments and whatnot. I'm going to be the chef. They're going to have to pay me per hour for what I'm doing. It's all going to be pre-cooked. And we're going to bring it with, a couple flat irons with sterno and stuff. And then, heat up the tortillas, have the tri-tip. We're only going to have one item to purchase. It's going to be 2 tri-tips and a brownie.
There you go.
That's it. $6, 2 tri-tip tacos and a brownie. If you want one taco, that's not us. If you want a brownie, go somewhere else. You get 2 tri-tips and a taco for simplicity. That's all. That's it. You're not doing chicken. We're not doing carnitas. Yes, we could do chicken or carnitas, but we are not doing it.
No.
So that's it. And my idea is, okay, my target for my boys, just from an adult standpoint, is like, okay, I want to put in 150 and I got to get 150 back.
Right.
Even if we break it, even if it costs me $20,
right.
If we keep them engaged the whole day doing this,
too.
The process. So that's my plan. But I think they'll be able to make money and this will actually be value because the problem that we've experienced going down to the pool is that they'll have like a taco truck guy come or a taco guy come. And it takes like 15, 20 minutes to get a taco.
Right.
And they have like a myriad of things and some people want melted cheese. No. You want your taco in 30 seconds? Here's 2 tacos and a brownie. Like,
So
that's it.
This is our solid business plan.
This is our solid business plan.
This is our cost of goods.
Listen,
So,
yeah, exactly. And we have one thing we do. And then if we get audacious and offer 2 things next time, that's fine. But simplicity. Don't get fancy. Don't offer 20 different things. We do one thing. We do that one thing very, very well. That business model is super cool.
It's so amazing. So amazing. Because then you can ask them after why it was different. When you're successful, you can ask them. And I didn't say if, I said when. You're going to be successful at this. Ask them, what's the difference between the taco trucks that show up and that too? Because that's what I'm talking about, the difference here when I was saying the language and talking about these things. You want them to have fun this summer.
Right.
I mean, that's what it's about. That they're going to remember that. They're going to remember not only what it was in the business concepts of that. That's when we did our Shark Tank and our Shark Week, and we had students develop products and goods and services. We're going to get better at it next year. This is something Innovate's done every year, and these kids have come off. We're trying to now bring it to where we can have these conversations where they're taking these lessons in and they're becoming internalized, so that when they get to a level and can get to, especially our business and leadership program, we have kids going out in internships. We need them to have those skills internalized enough to be able to have this type of understanding, this role play, because that's what you're talking about. You're talking about role play. And again, they're going to come back. They're going to have a good time. So
I hope so. And I really want to, I think one of the problems that the tech world experienced and the startup world experience is an unlimited expanse of capacity and ability, right? Because when we entered the tech era, right, that tech industry could do so many different things. And you see this now playing out in education. We have hammers for nails you didn't even know existed. We're waving these. You can do so many things. And because you can do so many things, people are constantly trying to convince others that there's value in these things they can do. And one, that betrays the actual necessity of the tool. But it also confuses the person about whether or not what they're doing is actually needed. So it's like, listen, niche down. If you find something that people need, they fundamentally need, and you find a problem with the way that thing is being resolved, try that. Niche down, like 1 inch wide and a mile deep. Just go hard on the tri-tip taco until you have the best tri-tip taco and you know how to deliver it as fast and as perfect and as wonderful as possible.
There you go. There you go. And that's what I've always appreciated about our conversations, because you're not saying absolutely no tech. You're not saying those things. You're saying be intentional, be aware, be smart. But because I sit here, I mean, I still have my own, I own my own business, but we look at, especially our platform, I think I mentioned it once before. It's a different kind of platform. It's about safety first. There's choices we make. And I know I'm probably going to make people angry when I talk about it, and I say this too. That's what's happening right now in the tech world. Because of the, let's say, there's the economic advantages of it right now in educational technology. You have people that have been out there and saying they understand education and technology, and they were teachers 20 years ago and they were a substitute teacher for a day or so, So it's different than that, because there are people that are also here in the field that have been doing this for a long time, that have been studying, been in the classroom, been in application, can take theory to application. And a lot of times you can tell the difference because the message is the same. It is about being intentional with a purpose and keeping everybody safe. You're going to look at that digital citizenship piece. You're going to look at how are we keeping everybody in the community safe? How are we being aware with this? And even myself this summer, I'm going to work hard to keep the young people in my life off of the tech and outside and riding the bike and painting the rocks. And, I talk about balance approach. When you're talking, I love the idea, what you said. I'm going to steal that one with the PVC pipe. I'm not going to steal your your tacos. I'm not going to steal the tri-tip tacos. But it is about, I always say have a balance of what it is that you want to get done. And I think I was mentioned to you earlier before we came on air. My boys, like I said, they were always a sports kid. I could get them outside to play every sport. Basketball, bike rides, anything to do that. But I always wanted a balance of mediums, art, being able to do those things. We would spend the summer, we would paint rocks. We'd go get water-based paint and we would paint rocks everywhere, big boulders, any outside, just even our dividers. And then in the fall, the water would come, or even when the sprinklers came on, the water would wash it away, and we would do it again. There's handprints all over my garage now still. We would take out and do some kind of finger painting kind of things. I think you were mentioning dots or
Oh yeah,
art, right?
like the poke and stick tattoos, right?
Yes.
Don't tattoo yourself.
No,
But
no.
but the idea of creating creating art and specifically paintings through different mediums instead of brushes, which I've always found to be incredibly frustrating.
Yes.
Like I've never claimed to be a good water painting artist, but having things like a chopstick, right? That you just dab in the paint and then you do the more or less dense dots and that creates painting, or using little cars that you ride through the paint and then you use that as a different pattern. But making art with something that's not a paintbrush is a really fun thing.
It is. It totally is. And so, and I will still see my boys are grown men now, and they still, when I'm out there with, with my granddaughter they talked about earlier, and that too, they'll join in. I mean, they'll pick up and start, joining in the fun, which I can tell made a difference, what we were doing in the summer. So those are the things, again, if people are out there looking, what do I do this summer? Of course, have fun. I was talking with someone else that said, we can't get this in this. We get this place where they think that they can just be off for a couple months and not have to work. And that's true. We do want to have that work ethic, but they have such little time to be this age. So there's ways to do it intentionally, responsibly, where you're still working on those summer skills. You're out there thinking creatively, you are having them work on their critical thinking skills, but you're still letting them be a kid.
Right.
Right. So.
Right. And again, it doesn't take as we talked about, Malcolm Gladwell in one of his books talked extensively about the inner city schools and the struggles that they experience, specifically that if you tested where people started and where people ended in a school year, you actually find that a lot of the inner city schools that he studied were outperforming the wealthier area schools. What they also found out, though, is that even though the inner city teacher may have moved a student 100 points on an arbitrary score,
right.
and another school that was a well-to-do school maybe moved the student 90 points, the student in the inner city lost so much over the summer that even though they moved up 100 points during the school year, they dropped back 50.
So true. And
then the other students had more engaged parents that got them reading, that played more games with them, that intentionally gave them these kind of brain teaser things. And they either lost less. So instead of losing 50 points, they'd only lose 10, or they held steady. I mean, the holy grail is to educate them and actually get them better. Yes. But even if you can just slow the decay over the summer, you're going to start at a better point. And you do that 12 times and you're grade levels higher than the other people.
Yes, you're because their brains are still developing.
Right.
And you can take the most gifted child. Of course I'm biased. My daughter, I thought was
she's so special.
Of course. But their brains are developing, they lose it.
Right.
They lose it. They are at 50% brain capacity until they get well into their adolescent ages, years. And so they're gonna lose it. And then also I kind of said that too before, we all have crammed for that test, right? We all, as us, the more that we have given them through the year to try and catch up, the more they're actually going to lose. Right. So that's why we have to have these opportunities to try and grab as much as we can. And it's just pulling it back in through the conversations. Remember, connecting to that prior knowledge and having it make sense for them. Right. Academic language is not the language we normally use, in our day-to-day existence. We don't, walk around talking about, multiplication and the different types of academic language we have. So anytime we can be intentional again and just, bring those back in our conversation without drill and kill, we don't want that. We want them to have fun. Right. But it's just, again, coming back and having fun, especially in those downtimes when we talked about. Right. In the car, you're out there playing, and just bringing back and having that transfer and conversation.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah.
Okay, recap. What were your 3?
My 3: language, reading, and then math family. Making math automatic. Just the math family, the relationship of numbers, which I knew you would like.
Yes, I love that. That's a big one. All right, my 3 were: don't negotiate with terrorists. Actually, eliminate and completely remove big swaths of technology so you're not always arguing with your kids. Lead by example with reading in particular. Just eliminate the other stuff. Have an actual book you carry around, model the behavior, and actually get into it. And it's going to be a lot easier for your kids to follow suit. And then the last one is intentional, higher quality card games and board games, right? Not all board games are created equally. Some are actually fun when you play with them correctly, and then play card games that don't just make you want to stab your eyeballs.
Definitely.
Yeah. Like I really enjoy Speed. I really enjoy Spot It. I mean, Solitaire, my boys got really into Solitaire. You can play, I'm going to teach them Gin Rummy and Rummy Cube this summer, like numbers, combinations, trades, the whole thing, all of it.
All of that is great. All of that is great stuff too. Catan, you ever heard?
Oh, Settlers of Catan? Hell yeah. And Small World? Oh, hell yeah.
I've always loved that. The Still Today.
Oh, yeah.
All the way into. Because we'd have family game nights. Because it's also a good community event. Because especially when you play with competitive children.
Yes.
Like I grew.
Okay, so check this out. A small note to end on, which was really funny. All right, when I was in college, I was on the rowing team. And the rowing team on, you do the fall semester, you go home for a winter break, and you come back and you'd have winter camp. So it was 10 days, double days, and you were dying. You were so tired in between practices that you like couldn't sleep. You're just abused, right? You'd like take a shower and just want to die. So what we would always do in winter camp was we would play Risk in between practices, right? And the game would go for a while, and we were like hyper competitive. So my junior year, my friend Max goes out and he gets Lord of the Ring Risk because Lord of the Rings had just come out. It was like 2002 or something. And so it came with the one ring. And it was this little dumb plastic ring, right? And we came over like, okay, well, whoever wins should get to keep the ring until the next game. And so the first game we start playing, Max goes and he has like a gold chain from, he was like, here, I'll put it on. And this little dumb plastic ring looked real. Like it was on a real gold chain, and he's wearing it. And he was like, awesome. So for days, this game is going on. And then finally we beat Max, right? Like Max is the second person out or something. We're like, Max, hand over the ring. He's like, no. We're like, Max, dude, give us the ring. You lost the game. He's like, no, I bought this board game. We're like, dude, give us the ring. He's like, the ring is mine. And he ran and hid it. We never found it.
The Precious.
We never found it. The Precious. He was like, I bought this game. The ring is mine. It was the best thing ever. It's like, to this day, I was 21 and we literally looked at each other and we were like, the ring is taking him.
Yes. You're going to. Oh, no.
Anyway, Geri.
Always a great time.
Thank you
And as we said too, one last thing, I think we both agree, we had our things to music. And we hit it in the beginning.
Yes.
Music is always
Music is great.
So
get some earplugs,
get out there.
throw them a kazoo, get them a jaw harp.
We gave you 6 great ideas. Throw some music in it. And it is a one great fun summer.
God bless it. Thank you for coming, Geri. MTU Studios is the proud producer for the Ada County Sheriff Podcast, the Idaho Wildlife Federation Podcast, the State Representative Ted Hill Podcast, the Idaho State PTA Podcast, and many more. If you or your organization is thinking about starting a podcast, MTU Studios would love to help. Just check out mtustudios.com.